This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. As long-time Raith Rovers supporters, we are very familiar with ropey performances. But if you need a service that's more Sam Stanton than Willie Accio, look no further than DIS. Operating across Scotland, they specialise in working at height, offering maintenance, inspection, repairs and more. So if you've got a problem at a height that even John Fredrickson can't reach, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk to find out more.
Hello and welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where summer is well and truly underway. The rumours are flying, the announcement videos are viraling, and we're going stir crazy with a lack of Raith Rovers games. I'm your host Robbie, and tonight I'm delighted to be joined by, firstly, sweltering away in Barcelona there, we've got Carol Smith.
Hello. Yes, it's sweltering, but I hear the weather's better in Starks Park than in Barcelona the past few days, so not bad, not bad.
Regular updates at least, so that's decent. We've got a man who's given a torrid time by Callie Thistle, having to edit video after video. We've got Callum Blythe.
I mean, at least this one makes me happy with all the updates.
Well, it's an interesting situation to keep an eye on anyway. Next we've got Blair Hopcroft. How you doing, Blair?
Very well, mate. Very well. Looking forward to this.
Good stuff. And then last but by no means least, we've got Scott Fleming. How you doing, Scott?
Yeah, really good. I mean, this time next week I'll be in Germany getting ready for, obviously, the Scotland games starting. But to be honest, all these signings things, I actually just want the Rover season back already.
I'm exactly the same. I'm honestly... See, for me, I'm not really excited about the Euros. Like, it's nice, it's good, but... Nah, I'm just really wanting the Rovers back, like, just with the excitement and the buzz that's going about the club. So, for tonight's podcast, obviously a bit of a break from the norm, given that we don't have any games to cover. What we're going to basically do is just look at the players that are leaving, the loanees, talk about the players that have signed new deals, and then, of course, move on to the confirmations of Lewis Stevenson coming to the club, and as well rumours that we've seen. So I'm just going to start with you, Callum. Firstly, to go through the players that have left the club at the end of their contracts. Keith Watson obviously came to the end of his deal, 1 year at the Rovers. Bit of an injury-plagued spell. Did you expect that one to come to an end, given the sort of circumstances?
Yeah, I feel like he was coming to the end of his time as a full-time player, at least, at a level that we're wanting to be at. So I'm not too fussed about Keith Watson leaving. There's other options, and we've got other options now, so it's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably a bit of a lone figure in the group chat when sort of it was announced that Fordyce has came in, but you can't deny that he's played a lot of games over last year, and he's statistically, I think when you look at what Duncan mentioned about the RSM stats that was quote tweeted, yeah, it really looks a good addition to be coming into that role. But I think that the main thing that we've sort of had the consensus over is that we just can't be going in another full season having Scott Brown playing centre back. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Keith Watson ends up after this, whether he does decide to hang up his boots. But obviously a very good servant for the club in terms of the time that he did on the pitch. It was just unfortunate that it was plagued by injuries. Carol, just to come to you nextly, Ethan Ross obviously left. He immediately signed away to Falkirk after a loan deal there.
Surprise.
What did you make of that?
Like the worst kept secret in football. When he went out on loan, there was no way he was staying, and the only place he could really go was Falkirk. I think the idea of him coming to the Rovers, I think, was in his mind was possibly a stepping stone to something bigger. This was going to be a big this was going to be him on the stage, but it just didn't go the way he thought. So yeah, maybe he's hoping he can get the same with Falkirk, but yeah, it was like the worst kept football secret, I think. Not surprised at all.
Yeah, I can understand that. And when we look back to when the deal was first announced, I know there was a lot made in terms of that Aberdeen had waived the development fee that they were entitled to, because I think that put off a lot of like second tier clubs in England. From when he was initially signed, there was a lot of discussion about how he might have gone down south, but nobody really wanted to pay the big fee that was attached to it. But Aberdeen did waive that, and they waived it in favour of potential selling on fees, from what I remember. But yeah, again, he had a few seasons where he was really offered a decent amount, I feel, in terms of goals and assists, chipped in a fair bit, but then to sort of see him over the last sort of year and a half where he's had these injury issues and then gone out to Falkirk and not really been a sort of first team player there. He's been kept out of the team by Calvin Miller and Callum Morrison. It'll just be, again, one to keep an eye on for the future, given he'll be coming back to Starks Park next season. I'm sure he'll want to prove a point, and it's, quite an intriguing one. So we'll move on to two of the younger lads. Maybe one of them's a bit of a taboo subject at the moment, with Adam Masson and Aaron Arnott. Blair, you're already smiling away. I'm going to keep this Rovers related, just at the moment. Do you think it's maybe a bit of a change of expectation that these lads have moved on, with regards to sort of where we're at as a club, developing, that we're looking for maybe a bit more experience, as opposed to going down the younger route?
Yeah, maybe. I think it was kind of on the cards for the pair of them, to be fair. I mean, Aaron he's a decent footballer, but it's a position that at that age, to break into a first team as a centre midfielder, you have to be pretty special. So invariably, I mean, look at Regan Henry. He's at Celtic and he effectively drops down to us. I think Aaron Arnott will do the same thing. He'll drop down to a lower team. Hopefully he gets his chance and can maybe kick on from there. Because there is a player in there. There definitely is. Adam Masson as well. Great guy. Like if you could keep him at the club just for who he is, you would. But I do think that we've probably, and it sounds a bit harsh because I really like Adam, but I do feel like we've moved on a level, and if we're going to continue to kick on at that level, you have to make sure that your depth of the squad is strong. And Adam was probably not quite at that sort of top championship level. When you're sitting in 5th and 6th and challenging for 4th, he's probably the kind of player you can have in your squad and actually be quite comfortable with. But I think if we are going to move on, it needs to move past. It never feels nice when it's somebody like that, though. Like, I mean, I don't think there's any Rovers fan would have been disappointed to see Adam Madsen signing on another deal. But it's the nature of the game, isn't it? It's football. It's what happens.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think anyone, as you say, anyone sort of questions his character or anything like that. But I think, see for me, it's going back a good few years now, but a good example for him to follow. There's a couple, actually. One that's been mentioned on the podcast before was James Berry, who went off to Stirling, to uni, and then he came back into the professional game, playing for Stenhousemuir. The other one's Mark Watley, where he went away and then he went off and played for I don't know if he was playing juniors for a bit or amateur level, but then he went off and he signed for, came back up and signed for Arbroath and did really well there. So there is a path back into the game for these lads if they don't end up in the SPFL. Like there's still, I think with the Lowland League nowadays, that it's such a competitive league that there's no shame in going and playing at that level for a good wee while and developing yourself, because you will still find a decent standard of sort of player at that level. So Adam in particular is one that I really want to see sort of in the future, hopefully bouncing back and being able to get back into the SPFL at some level, whether it's with a team that's taking a punt on him immediately or whether it's going back in the future. So hopefully that's the case. Scott, the next one that we're going to come to, funnily enough, your namesake, Scott McGill, the jack of all trades of the team, the utility man. He's obviously at a point where, again, probably falls into that category where he needs game time. What did you make of him moving on, and how do you think he'll do in the future?
Yeah, I think it wasn't too surprising that he decided to move on. I think for McGill now, he really does need to go and start playing week in, week out at a team. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes and either signs with somebody like a Hamilton or even to a top League One side and is like sort of a star player in a midfield for them, because the guy's clearly got talent. We wouldn't have kept him on last year if he didn't. And I think the fact that he could play other positions meant that Murray could trust him as well. And the fact that at the start of the season he was playing left back, and we started him in a Fife derby in August at left back as well. So no, I think Scott McGill, he gave everything anytime he played, and he was just also meant to be a really good guy in terms of pally with everybody and just good around the changing room as well. So I think, as Blair's touched on, when you see good guys leaving the club, you're a bit gutted for that sort of thing, but at the same time you just go, well, it'll be interesting to see where he goes, how he does, because to be honest, I hope he does go on and have a good career, because yeah, he looks a decent player and he did a decent job for us when he was called upon.
I kind of feel like I was going to say, just really quickly, I feel like of all the list, Scott McGill's probably the only one that I think potentially has decided not to stay, as opposed to has been let go. The rest of them, I do kind of feel like it has been I don't need to qualify this on this podcast, but I don't know anything. But I don't actually think that the rest of them would have been offered a deal. I could quite believe Scott McGill would have been offered a deal, but it would have been a similar kind of utility role to what he's played this season. And you can't blame the guy if he's thinking, I'm going to go and get some first team football, because he's, like Scott said, he's a talented lad.
I think if you were looking at it from the Football Manager game perspective, he's probably got sort of like light green dots all over the pitch in terms of the positional sense, Scott McGill. But yeah, again, it's for him, the most important thing is going to be game time. And as a utility player, it's always going to be difficult because you are going to get sort of shunted into these roles. Again, you think he played that game at Hampden, that again, we're going to come on to very, very soon. Because another figure is going to be up for discussion that I'm going to sort of put to the open group. But he came up with the assist for that Jack Hamilton header to get the equaliser in that game. And I know that he had a difficult time against Dom Thomas, but when you're asking him to jump into these different positions, it's always going to make it. I think for him, he'll probably be thinking, right, I just want to be able to get games of football and potentially in one position. But having that as a skill set can work for you and it can work against you at times. But yeah, I think that's a good point though, Blair, that he might be one that's sort of maybe turned down a deal to look elsewhere and to sort of explore other avenues and try and get more game time. Because it is, I think that's the difficulty for Rovers now, that because we're trying to kick on to that next level, how we move forward with that. Now, I naturally referenced there that game at Hampden, which inevitably means that everyone on the podcast who's listening will know that turns us to the final player that got released, Ross Milne. Now, this has obviously been rolling on for a good few months, where we've had this situation. Exactly. With Ross Milne, where after the Airdrie game in the Challenge Cup, there's been a lot of discussion about what's happened and speculation and people coming on sort of saying, what's happened with Ross Milne, where's it gone? Now obviously the club are always going to back Ian Murray with this, and I think Ian Murray's obviously justified himself in terms of where we finished and what's happened, but at the same time, I'll go around the group just one by one. So Carol, just for you, Ross Milne, just have your thoughts on him and what happened and where he's going and what he could potentially do in the future.
One of the best memories, I think, of last season. That game, I mean, watching on Raith TV, but just the commentary, the moment, you couldn't see the fans, but you could hear it, just one of the best memories. I hope that he goes on to something that he enjoys and that and a club that works for him. Yeah, I know nothing. Blair,
you were there at the game at Hampden for that day. Aye. What's your
tremendous
thoughts?
It was tremendous. I loved Ross Milne. I really did. I don't
Amazing
think he was I don't think he was necessarily the best footballer. I've got to be honest. cracking first touch, put in a good cross. Do I think that we can do better as a right back? Yes. Do I think he'll end up at Morton? Yes. I wish him well. I really do. And I tell you right now, 100%, he will hunt us. He will 100% come back to haunt us, and he will love every single second of it. And I'm here for it. I like it.
Everyone's saying that he's going to end up at Morton, and I think that's a fair guess. But I mean, it might be that Airdrie could be another shout for him as well. I know they've signed a sort of younger lad, but Airdrie and him and Todorov would be an absolute nightmare to look at, just in terms of rage from a support. Callum, you're laughing away there. Just your thoughts on Ross Mellon and any farewell words for him?
I'm just happy to know that he's still alive, seeing as he's appeared on the list on something for the first time in a few months. I will remember him for the tackle at Tannadice where he celebrated even though the ball was rolling away but was still in play. He just got up and started celebrating. And, you know, I respect that. A pure passion merchant who could put in a good cross and whatnot. So, like you say, I could see him at like a Morton or something. I don't know what it is, but he just screams Doogie Imrie's green at Morton. If he goes to Airdrie, I will be terrified. Like him putting cross balls into Todorov, I might as well just go home the moment I see the team sheets.
Again, that's just pure speculation on my part. I've got nothing to actually suggest that will happen. I think the likelihood is that he'll end up with his dad at Morton, but we'll see how it goes. And Scott, you. What are you making of it?
I think we all knew that in the start of the season, especially, I actually thought he came on to more of a game this year than he had. First season, I thought it was just too inconsistent. Like Blair, I never ever thought that Ross Mellon was a really good footballer, but he put in a pretty good cross and he linked up well with his pal Aidan Connolly, especially in the first half last season as well. Hence why Aidan Connolly had such a good season. But I think, obviously what happened, but it was a bit disappointing that's the way that it ended. I think we've seen, especially in the derby games, the guy just loved to win a game of football, and the passion that he showed, either when he's won a tackle, even winning a throw, and he's even turning around celebrating, you're just going, well, if he's going to do this every week, then I'm here for it. But I think, it wouldn't surprise me if he's not at Morton that he's still in the Championship, because I think he's too good to be in League One, but I think he has a pretty decent fullback in the Championship. So it wouldn't surprise me if he is somewhere in the Championship next season. I think the annoying thing is, obviously, when it's something like this, that the last thing that I seen was him raging down the tunnel at Airdrie after being sent off by that little referee that's clearly loves a card. But and that was the last that we ever seen of him. So it was a bit awkward, but it is what it is. So no, I hope he goes on and still has a decent career for what years he's still got left. But I do agree with Blair as well that I do think if he is against us next season and he's involved in a goal against us, he will absolutely go for it.
Don't let him take a penalty. Whatever we do not concede a penalty.
Do, because we all know what he's going to
do.
Yeah, but we'll have no.
Watch this as he passes it into the corner for the first time in his life for a penalty. But Scott with it. I
was going to say, he's just one of these players that him winning is never as important as you losing. Do you know what I mean? It's like he just revels in everyone else's misery. And I love that about him. I really did. I really enjoyed it. And I do think he'll come back to Starks at some point, whether it's next season or the season after or whatever. He will probably get a pretty good reception. He will then do something really stupid and he'll get booed, and then it'll just all turn into chaos. And it's going to be incredible. I can't wait.
He's going to be he's going to do the Luis Suarez against David Moyes, isn't he? Where he just dives in front of the dugout or something like that. It was funny that you mentioned the first season that Ross Milne had, because he came in and he got I think a lot of people were we'd signed Dylan Easton and Scott Brown, and I think Dylan Easton, everyone's like, that's amazing. Scott Brown, people are a bit like, oh, that's an interesting one. And Peterhead fans are trying to assure us, like, he's absolutely class. Ross Milne comes in, and I think everyone was like, I don't know about that one. But he gave away a penalty against Inverness, and I remember a lot of people were sort of giving him a lot of stick after that for a good wee while, and I don't think it really turned until the Motherwell Cup game. And one of my abiding memories after that third goal that Ishmael Calves found for once in his life a burst of pace for that third goal was Ross Milne not running to celebrate with the players. He just absolutely levered it down the right wing to celebrate in front of the south stand. But again, that's the type of person he is, and I think as fans, when he's on your side and it's going well, you do appreciate it and you do enjoy it. I've only ever spoken to him once, but he really came across really well. And yeah, much like everyone else. Again, for all the players that have left us, I think you wish them all the best, because they all did put in 100% effort, and you can tell that. And it's just unfortunate the situation that's happened with Ross Milne. But again, it's one of those ones where it was always going to be an uphill battle after that. So all the best to the players that are leaving the club. Now going to move on, slightly different tack here. Rovers obviously had numerous loanees throughout last season. Start off, one that's already definitely not coming back to Starks Park. Scott is Kyle Turner, who's already penned a 2-year contract after being released today by Ross County as away to Partick Thistle. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, I thought Kyle was, I think, at the end of his spell anyway, we've seen the player that he could be. And obviously we'd seen him against us plenty of times in the season before as well. But I think he was a bit unlucky, obviously. The position he was in, he started straight away because obviously Stanton was injured. But as soon as Stanton came back in, he really struggled to get any game time. And then as we were kind of rotating again near the end of the season, found himself back in the team, started playing well, and because he was playing well, he probably actually played himself into that lineup for the first leg against Partick, and then just, was really unlucky that it ended up being Ross County that we played, because I'm pretty sure he would have played against St Johnstone had it been them. But I was a little bit surprised that he's decided to kind of come back down to the Championship, but at the same time, I have heard it's due to the fact that he wants to be back nearer home again. He is a sort of Glasgow-based guy, so I think it doesn't surprise me too much that he's gone back to Partick in that way. But and it'll be frustrating again if it's another player that comes back to haunt us next season. But it's the club maybe try to go and get him, but at the same time, if Partick have went and offered him a deal and he thinks it's better for him and his situation, then fair play. And again, it's a guy that done well for us in time, so I don't really have anything bad to say about him.
Blair, you were saying off air there just before we started that Partick seem to be making quite a few signings which are rather good actually, which is quite annoying.
Don't like it. I like 12 months ago when they were in financial turmoil. It made me feel a lot better about myself. No, they've made some decent signings. There's no getting away for that. I think they'll be quite strong again next year. I think having come so close the last 2 seasons there, in the same position as us, probably looking at the league without a recognised big guy in there, because I don't think Livingston are that, to be perfectly honest. So I think that they'll be pushing for it. And there's talk of another one of our returning or loanees that have gone back, but Sean Byrne has been quite heavily linked actually the last couple of days with Partick. Sad to see Kyle not coming back. I quite enjoyed him. I'd be more upset about Sean Byrne going though. I'm not going to lie. That'd be a right kick in the teeth.
Sean Byrne was the next one on the list. Carol, I was going to ask you about him. What do you make about the battle for Sean Byrne?
Oh, please let's keep him. Please let's keep him. I think I'm going to agree with Blair. I think it's easier to say who's not going to be going for the league this year realistically than try to narrow it down. It's really open and everyone's went, we need to up. Raina Morton, obviously, and Dunfermline. And
Hello down there.
Yeah, mind the gap, and all that. But yeah, I really hope Sean Byrne comes to us, because if he goes to Partick, that is them really upping their game, and we are looking at it being a tough start to the season, because everyone's going to be going out all guns blazing. Everyone's kind of reinforced themselves, and got some new ammunition.
Yeah, it's certainly looks to be that way when you look at the league. I mean, even Dunfermline, they've signed Chris Kane, who's been, it's not really been came in with full fitness, but the type of player that was scoring goals. But every goal that I seem to see him score seemed to be a slack back pass from a defender. Just a really bizarre situation. Callum, for next season, with our loanees, can you see us maybe going down a bit of a different route, given where we're at, and what would you like to see coming into the club on that front?
I actually don't know. I really don't know, because I feel like we're going to prioritise permanent signings. I feel like the only person who I would like to see coming on loan would be Megwa, because I thought he was easily one of Edge's best players last season. He's clearly highly rated by Hibs, because they brought him back for their winter training camp. Unfortunately, that came after we had played a game against Edge, and Megwa was excellent in that game as well. So if we can get, that's the only name that I can think of who, that off the top of my head, that I can be yes, if we could get him on loan, get him. But I don't know. I can't really think of anyone else.
Yeah, I think Megwa's going to be naturally the one that a lot of fans in our league, I know that basically ourselves, Partick, all those types of clubs are going to be sort of eyeing him up, probably Livingston as well, to sort of say, yeah, that's we like the look of him. And again, you don't know for the guy himself whether he'd want to actually go back to Airdrie, because it might be that a lot of the time players get connections and they find a club and they sort of say, I've been there before, I know what I'm getting. From our point of view, I would hope that we could maybe exploit the fact that we've got an ex-Hibs player as a manager now, and that we've got one, potentially two ex-Hibs stalwarts in our side to sort of say,
yeah, less of a shithole in Airdrie.
Yeah, that's also very true. But
brought to you by the Airdrie Tours Board.
Making friends and influencing people. It's you know what? I think it's the funny thing about Scottish football is that everyone slags every other town off. No town's exceptional in Scotland. We're not living in Monte Carlo, are we, lads? But
I quite like the Costa
beautiful.
Well, that's true. In our town centre,
the Highlands were lovely. It was gorgeous in Dingwall, regardless of the result. It was beautiful.
They're a top flight club, though. So
yeah,
a top flight club in a town that's smaller than Burntisland. Cheers, Uncle Roy. Yeah, frustrating. Blair, just to come back to you last, obviously, with any of the loanees, I know that you've been obviously. You can be quite honest in terms of your appraisal with things, shall we say. I know that you've certainly been that way with Zach's run before, and I think ultimately you've been proven right, to be fair. Just going to check
very often.
With yourself, would you actually take any of the loanees back, or what would be your thoughts on things?
I'd definitely take Sean Byrne back. Obviously, he's now a free agent, so that would be a permanent deal. In terms of loan moves, no. I mean, obviously, Kyle Turner's now off the list. I wouldn't touch Zach Rudden again. I do think that's the type of player that they're probably going to need to get as another striker. They're not readily available, so the best you can hope for is a young up-and-coming striker somewhere who needs a bit of game time. I'm just not sure what that market is now for us, and I think that's my worry, is that I'm not sure dipping into the bottom end of the Premier League for that is actually good enough anymore. Like the likes of Jamie Gullen and boys like that, when they were coming in on loan, did a job for us, but I do genuinely think that we've upped our game a little bit, and I think we need to be kind of looking accordingly. So I don't know if there's scope to be looking down south potentially for young strikers that are needing game time. Might be a way to go. But in terms of the list that that we had last season. Lee Ashcroft would have been one that I'd have been quite happy to see coming back in, obviously, once he gets back to fitness. But I think given Fordyce signing, I didn't see that really being
Lee Ashcroft has incidentally been also linked with Partick Thistle, funnily enough.
Has he?
I'm actually
Funnily
wondering
enough.
where Scott... I think that's probably Scott Fleming's been tapped up by Partick Thistle, and that's why he's just disappeared there. He's just away to join draw, lose or draw. So, yeah, the next point that we'll move on to is just going to be in terms of the players that we've signed new contracts with. So just to start with yourself, with the most recent one, Carol, Liam Dick obviously agreed a new contract extension. We went with the usual game on social media as we do. But yeah, do you think that's quite a sensible move?
Yeah, I think it's a very sensible move. He was a great, I don't want to use the cliche, but servant to the club last year, definitely. Someone you could rely on, someone that was solid. Yeah, I think it's good for him. I think the club is, as we've all said, is on the up, and I think it's good for him in another year. Yeah, very happy. Very solid player you can trust. Not injury prone, really. Quite solid, quite fit. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, I think that with Liam Dick, when you think about it, we've re-signed the first choice left back from last season for the team that finished second in the championships ourselves, and we've added, of course, Lewis Stevenson into the mix as well. He can play in, whether it's a back four or a back three. He's adept in both positions. I know that we've been quite complimentary about that before from him. So yeah, I think that it's a very astute move from Ian Murray and John Potter to get him under a new contract. And again, it's a player that he will chip in with assists and the occasional goal. And I think that over time he has developed as a player as well when he's been with Rovers. I think that if you looked at him when he first signed compared to where he is now, I think that he seems a lot more confident and a lot more settled. But yeah, intrigued to see where we go with that. Callum, yesterday as well, we had the news that Ross Matthews, fan favourite, drinker of the Falkirk Tears, has agreed a new contract for a year as well. Are you quite happy to see that one over the line? I know that he's one that we've obviously been quite vocal about on here before.
Oh, absolutely. I'm absolutely happy with him staying. I think I've said probably many times before, it's like, if we are to go up to the Premiership, I want it to be with Ross Matthews and Lewis Vaughan being in the team, because it's like they were first team players and we were down in League One for those 3 seasons. And of course, as you mentioned, the Falkirk Tears, Falkirk coming back up. If he scores against Falkirk, then it's worth it. The contract is worth it. I just want to add to Blair's point about the loan signings for strikers. I don't think we'll go for anyone in England. I feel like John Potter has mentioned not looking outside of Scotland for now whilst we're in the Championship, just due to accommodation costs. You know, it's like having to house those coming up, because I mean that's what's happening with Inverness. That's what they're claiming. That's why they're wanting. That's why they were moving to Kelty before cancelling it earlier today. But yeah, very happy with Matthew's stay.
Yeah, I think that it's one that's naturally going to please a lot of people within the Rovers support. I don't think you'll find anyone that's really going to say, "Oh, Ross Matthews, why are we offering him a new deal?" And yeah, again, someone that he's a really well-spoken guy, and just if you do get the chance to chat to him, he's always very down to earth, very complimentary to the club. So hopefully,
and he was good this season. He was excellent in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, and that's the thing that makes you think with Sean Byrne as well, that we've kind of softened the blow by how well Ross Matthews has done now that he's been able to get back in the team consistently. Because I know before there had been, and you can understand sort of maybe if the club had a bit of trepidation that he's had these injuries issues and that he's struggled to get back into the team consistently. Not that it was any fault of his own. So yeah, ideally again, it's one of these players. I think there's a few players where they came into the season late. I think Aidan Connolly and Ross Matthews are two in particular where they've not had a full pre-season. So if you can get them in and you can get them started, and I think that's the difference between this season and last season as well. Next season, hopefully, we'll be going in with a clean slate, free of injuries going into the start of the season. Obviously, you can't contend for things like little knocks and
Touch
niggles.
everything,
But
touch wood, touch
yeah,
wood.
100%. But
Don't jinx
Don't
it.
do anything stupid on your holidays.
but
Yes.
I
do think we need to. I think that's one of the areas of the pitch though, that we definitely still need to strengthen is centre mid. We've got three really good centre mids, but they're all very a bit risky to say, but they're all quite samey. They're quite similar. So Ross Matthews, Scott Brown, and Sam Stanton all kind of do a similar, to different degrees and in different ways, but they do a similar kind of role. Whereas I think Sean Byrne was the one last season that we didn't have anybody else that did what Sean Byrne does. So I do think that's, and I don't think they come along very often. Those we referred to as a Rolls Royce of a footballer, and I do think they don't come along very often. So finding somebody like that's going to be quite key for us as well. And I really like Sean Byrne. Really liked him, and I'd like to have
Johnny
him back.
Esther.
Yeah,
Johnny
I think that Sean Byrne in particular is going to have a lot of. There's going to be a lot of interest, and I think he's in that an enviable position that because so many clubs at the top end of the Championship are going to be after him. There will be clubs that will push the boat out to try and get him in because they can see the impact that he's had on our team. Because there was a huge impact in terms of the performances where we were before Sean Byrne came in and after Sean Byrne came in. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with it, but also as well, there's the route that if he doesn't sign, then we've got that space there to bring someone else in and who we actually do try and get in. So intriguing to see what happens. Just on the loan front, one person that I was actually speculative about before was Scott Tiffany. I think that I'd be interested to see if we actually go for him because wingers was something that we've got Josh Mullen, we've got Aidan Connolly, Callum Smith in there as well. So I'm very interested to see if that's an area of the pitch that we do try and attend. We've managed to recall Scott from his loan from Partick Thistle there, so welcome back, Scott. We've just been chatting away about the loan deals, Scott, that we had last season. Just any thoughts to add on that? We've obviously been praising Sean Byrne in particular, and as well, just anything about the players that have signed new deals.
I think Sean Byrne for me is kind of. I want him back. I think everybody's the same. I think, to be honest, it'll be disappointing if we don't get him, especially if he goes to a Championship rival, which is if he doesn't sign with us, it looks like it's going to be Partick, possibly Livy, but it's probably us at Partick, to be honest. So, I'm hoping he comes back to us. I hope the fact that he enjoyed it so much last season that's at the back of his mind, thinking, look, I could be playing here every week enjoying my football, so why would I go anywhere else? And the likely chances we're going to be challenging, and just like Partick probably will be as well. So I think out of all the loan deals, though, I would say that the most disappointing one is, I don't know, I'm guessing you've talked about him, though, is Zach Rudden.
It's been mentioned.
He's up there competing with Mark Stewart for the most offsides when it comes to strikers for Raith Rovers.
I think that's a fair summary. I'm not sure if Scott's just left on that point as well.
He's just dropped
the mic and left.
He just came in, he bodied Zach Rudden and then he disappeared again.
Zach Rudden has found his internet provider.
But yeah, I think with Rudden, it's again, it just never really panned out in the way that you hoped. He went through that spell where he was scoring goals. I always try and sort of side with players and sort of come out on that top. But now after the piece, I think you've got to sort of say, like, I don't know. It just really, I think we found it difficult with the system that we played to really fit him into a strong position, but at the same time
He
as well.
forgot how his legs worked. It was like they were different from like the rest of his body. He went for a spell where he was like a real wide boy and he was getting round everybody, and then he just turned to Bambi on ice and just couldn't work out what the hell he was doing.
I would genuinely be interested to know whether it was just a confidence thing or what happened in terms of it, because he did look like at the start he looked like, wow, this guy can really, you can see why we've brought him in, and then it just totally
like the
turned.
Ayr and Dundee United games.
Yeah, Ayr, Dundee United again, even up at Arbroath away in the first half, he put in a decent shift. Yeah. I think for the most part though, Josh Mullen was sort of the standout in that game. But yeah, I know that in terms of the retained players, just to touch on this as well, we've obviously put out on the website that we've offered terms to Andy McNeil and Dylan Corr, so two of the younger lads. In there, I know that for Dylan Corr, I'm not sure how accurate I'll be in saying this, but I wonder if we've done that just on the basis that if any other club needs to come in for him, they'll have to pay a development fee because we've offered him a contract. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. Plus, again, I don't think it's just for that reason. I think it's because there is definitely a player in there. That's the other point that I would make about Dylan Corr, that he stepped up to the plate when needed, especially at the end of the season. And I think it's probably a testament to him that he didn't chuck the toys out the pram. That you could see, he just got his head down and got on with it, him and Ross Matthews. And even, to be fair, Ross Milne as well. I know that there's been a lot said, but it's been radio silence from Ross Milne. And I know that they might not have had their agreements, but if there's a way to do business, it's to do it quiet and with dignity. And I think that you could say that about all three of them. So just on to the final point now. We'll just turn into the most recent confirmation that we've had, which was that hometown hero Lewis Stevenson, who's played hundreds and hundreds of games for Hibs, was it 600 or so, has jumped across the Forth to come back to Kirkcaldy. A railway line across from the Blaze pitch where he was playing at Balwearie during lunchtimes, 90 aside or something stupid like that, I remember it was. Scott, just going to ask yourself, are you happy to see the deal over the line? I know that you'd speculated about it quite a lot, and you're sort of close with in terms of the family, I think. So yeah, what was your thoughts when you saw that come through?
Yeah, I hope my connection finally sorts itself out at some point. But no, I think it was known for a while that Lewis wasn't going to get kept on at Hibs, and we knew that it was so close last year to happening as well. So the fact that it was so close to happening last year, I think I kind of just had a feeling that it was going to happen definitely this year when it was confirmed that he was going to get released. I mean, I've known Lewis and Lewis's family for a lot of years now, and I know John Greer does as well. And like, the guy's just such a good, genuine guy, and he just gives everything when he goes out on the pitch. And he's just, such a sort of kind guy, always looking to see how somebody is, and he's just such a good egg that he'll be in that dressing room. And he's played with probably a couple of the boys over the time, and as he says, he's also played against these guys throughout the years as well. So I think he'll bring just the sort of experience that we need, just added into what we already had. I think last season we showed that we had a bit of nous about us, and we had guys like Mullen that had won the division before. But if you just keep adding little bits each season, eventually it's going to click. And folk are going, oh, he's 36 or whatever. I mean, Lewis hasn't had too many big injuries in his career. The fact that he's played over 600 games would tell you that. So I think the fact that he's still willing to come down and play at the Championship and give it his all for the next 2 years, I think is really good. And I might be a bit biased with all of that because I kind of know him, but no, I really hope that it's a successful time for him, and that I know that he's buzzing to be back in his hometown as well, and the family are chuffed that he will feature in a Rovers jersey at some point in his career.
Yeah, I think it's with Stevenson, it's one that's he was in the year above me at school, didn't know him at all, didn't speak to him, wouldn't claim to be his pal or anything like that or along those lines, but I think it's one of those ones where for everyone that was at Balwearie at that point, it was very much Lewis Stevenson was at school at the same time as me. It was always a point of pride that how well he did, firstly when he won the League Cup and then to go on to win the Scottish Cup with Hibs. So it's been really great to see him do well, just a local lad do so positively throughout their career. And I think
it's the one point of pride in the school. It's
to be fair, we had Colin Cameron as well. As well.
They still have all the newspaper clippings of Lewis Stevenson in the main office.
That's fair. You've got to celebrate your successes.
There's not many.
Ah, well.
That means from Balwearie, I'm successful.
I came from Balwearie, but I get a newspaper clipping.
I regularly featured in the Five Free Press. Thank you very much.
I hope it was for good reasons.
Yes.
She's thinking about that one.
Yeah.
But no, it's as well, I think that there's so much that he can offer as well, just in general terms to the squad as well. So like you take a lad like Callum Hanna, who's coming into the start of his career, like how much experience he's going to be able to take off the back of it. So yeah, a really shrewd move, I think. And as you say, Scott, he's played so many games for the club. Blair, what did you make of the deal?
Yeah, delighted. I think it was important as well that it wasn't a year. I think it can sometimes feel like a bit of. I think Davey mentioned it in his interview as well. It can sometimes feel like a victory lap. And a 2-year deal for me instantly takes that off the table. He's here to play football. He's here to try and win things, and to try and kind of develop. I didn't actually realise that they have him and Hanlon have got some kind of academy or foundation or something.
Foundation, yeah, it's a charity.
Yeah, the charity thing that they run together, which is another great thing is that, I mean, the Rovers have got a history of guys towards the end of their career coming in, and the Rovers have supported them with that next step, whatever that happens to be, whether it's in football or not. I mean, Jamie McDonald, they kind of worked with him to get through his financial qualifications and stuff while he was with the club, and we've done that for years. I think it's
Christoph Berel was another with his coaching.
Yeah, but I think it's another avenue for a lot of footballers, and it's that thing of players know that there's an opportunity to come to a club where they're going to get support and they're going to get that kind of like that all-round thing. You're not just a number and you're not just a player on the pitch kind of thing. We talk about that community club thing, but it extends to the players as well, and I think that's quite important. But no, I think it's a really good signing. I think keeping Dick on is also a really good signing in terms of, I mean, realistically, is Lewis Stevenson going to play 40 games next season? He might do, because I said the same thing when Christoph Berra came in, and he did. But if he's not, you've got another player there that can play. You've also now, and you mentioned it already, you've got the option of playing the back three, because Lewis is far more kind of attack-minded than what Dick is. And Dick's probably better on the left-hand side of a three than he is at left-back anyway. So it kind of, I think they potentially suit each other pretty well. And like you say, Callum Hanna, I mean, at his age, playing underneath Lewis Stevenson and learning from him every day, it's not going to get any better than that for him. I don't think there's anybody that we could bring in that's going to help develop him as a player as much as a guy like Lewis. So, yeah, cracking bit of business.
I think as well, it's the characters that you look at in the team, like Liam Dick, Ross Matthews, Lewis Stevenson. They all just, everything that you hear about them is just that they're really, really good guys, really positive people. It's just great to have about the squad.
Really smart guys as well, and smart players, I think. Just they're smart on and off the field, and I think that's one of the things.
Well, Lewis Stevenson wasn't in any of my classes, so he must have been doing something right in school. Well, yeah, we've. But in all seriousness, though, and again, the same extends to Dylan Easton. You read all the interviews about how he came back to the club and penning his new deal. He had offers elsewhere, but he said, chatting with his wife, and he just said that like he loves it so much here that he's just wanting to get that contract extended. And again, the same went for Sam Stanton too. So it's good that the club are building this and that the players do feel wanted and that they've got that dynamic in the relationship with the supporters. And you saw that at the end of last season in particular. So long may that continue. It will feel really weird seeing Lewis Stevenson playing in a blue kit though. Like that's going to take me a while to get adjusted to. But the other one, speaking of the Stevenson Hanlon Foundation, rumours seem to be circulating about that Paul Hanlon might be signing a 3-year deal with us. So just to come to you firstly, Blair, what were your thoughts when you saw that? A real statement of intent?
Massive. Yeah. I think that'd be another cracking signing. And when you add in, the options that you've effectively got at centre back, it's everything that we were missing last season. I'm really pleased actually that it's kind of felt the last few years, and this is going to sound really harsh on Murray, and I don't mean it to be, but the defence has almost been a bit of an afterthought at times. But I think that's actually part and parcel of the fact that there's not really been an awful lot available. Like for the last 3 or 4 years anyway, centre halves have been a bit of a dying breed in terms of certainly at championship level, players becoming available kind of thing. So no, I think that's a really, I mean, if, and it's obviously a big if, but if it happens, it would be a real statement of intent, I think, because guys like Stevenson and Hanlon are not coming to a side to finish fourth. I mean, they're coming here to challenge. They're coming here to win things. So, no, I think it would be fantastic if we can get that over the line, and it really starts that thing of building from the back. And you've really only then got 2 or 3 pieces of the puzzle to kind of slot into place.
Yeah.
You were saying about defence being an afterthought. It's like Kevin Dabrowski made the most saves of any goalkeeper in the Championship, and it was 100 saves.
Yep.
And that's just... Obviously, he's a very good shot stopper, which is what kept us in a lot of games. So, showing up that defence is something that was definitely a priority coming into this season. That
had to be.
I think that, again, you point to that stat, and I know that we've said that Scott Brown, he played over more than the majority of the games of last season at centre-back compared to centre-mid. So that's going to be a huge addition if we can actually get Scott Brown just into midfield, because it makes a huge difference if we're not having to pull him back every second game, or he gets halfway through a game where he's been used to playing centre-mid, and then halfway through second half he's then changed into a centre-back because someone's came off injured or we've encountered a difficulty. An interesting point, if we did get Megba, would be that he would have Big Kev would have played alongside obviously Stevenson. If we sign Hanlon, Megwa and Murray, a minimum of a season each with all of them pretty much, other than maybe Megwa he's spent less time with, but even still that would be a huge bit of consistency. And that's, I always go back to that Arbroath team that had that back line after Gaston. You had, what was it, Colin Hamilton, Tam O'Brien, Ricky Little, Jason Thompson, and they just kept that the same. And that's probably the baseline of like how successful just having a consistent defence that know each other inside out and what they're going to do. So yeah, other than that, the rumour mill's been quite quiet. I don't think there's been too much speculation as to anyone else coming in. Deals tend to feel like with the Rovers, it's at the moment things kept relatively well under wrap, which is, again, it's probably a positive as well, but these things move quickly, and if there is anything, then generally you'll tend to get the courier tend to be quite quick, or Scottburn tends to be quite quick on it.
I think the only other one, Robbie, was obviously Logan Chalmers, but it seems to be that Partick have jumped in on that one as well. So if I don't think it's
been Partick.
It's not been confirmed yet, I don't think, but from what I've seen on social media today, it looks pretty likely that at some point in the next few days that he will be a Partick player.
Chalmers is an interesting one because you see the Ayr fans and they're not really too bothered about him going. Like, they say, yeah, he's a good player, but they were far more happy that they got the boy Henderson from Ross County, who seemed to do well for Cali. So yeah, Chalmers, again, he's a goal threat and he does well against us, but if he is inconsistent, then you've always got that aspect to it. So yeah, I guess
I was just going to say very quickly, the other one that seems to have been talked about for a while and seems to have just disappeared is Matty Yates.
That's been lost in the maelstrom that is our group chat.
That's a really weird one. I suspect someone says, like, oh yeah, he's signed for us. It's like an open secret, like the Stenny end of year party.
I think that, see, for me, that's been a wind up.
Signed the contract.
I'm sure it's been a wind up. I think that Matty Yates is basically, he's played at Stenhousemuir, and the ex head of social media at Stenhousemuir was a Pars fan. And I suspect that they've just done it to wind up the Pars fan, and then it's been leaked out, and then people have not been able to recognise when a wind up's a wind up, which is when it becomes a rumour, basically. So
I got my pal excited. He loves Matty Yates because we did a online save on Football Manager. He went to Stenhousemuir, I went to Stirling Albion, and he had like Matty Yates all the way up through into the Premiership.
Fair
he
enough.
was going to buy a season ticket.
Well, not anymore, eh? We should have moved quicker.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And the other one that was doing the rounds was Daily Record. Kai Montague is his name?
Yeah.
He's Kilbride. That was a bit of a weird one.
He's turned us down, apparently, according to...
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't know
headline,
if that's-
turned down to down.
I was saying this earlier in the chat. I wonder if that's Mick Kennedy just trying to build a bit of hype about the lad, and you can't blame him if he is. I mean, I'm not going to.
Kennedy will have sat him down and said something about, the next 100 days for the next 100 years of your life, son, and
We are soldiers of love.
Yeah, we are. That's it. Aye. What an absolute pillock that man is.
He's a character, Mick Kennedy. It's just
He's not a
one way
character.
of
He's
putting
a
it.
tube.
It's just
He's an absolute
that's
wallop.
well, yeah, that's fair.
That's the
fair.
nicest way I could put it.
It was the I do this every week. This isn't for the cameras. I'm weighing raffle. You don't. Nonsense.
Right, have we got anything else to add while we're in our close season climb up the walls phase? Callum?
Eastern contract extension.
Aye.
The show goes on.
Of
The
course.
show
2 more
goes
years.
on.
You know, how did I miss that one out? So, aye. What did you make of that one?
Brilliant. I'm so happy he's staying.
It's
good, son.
It's like even though it's like I did say his second half of the season wasn't as good as the first half of the season, but seeing those playoff games where he did come on, like especially in like the second, what was it, like the last 20 minutes of the first leg against Ross County, and in the actual game, and like the full game against Ross County, he was dangerous. He was making things happen in that game, and it's a shame that he was carrying that back injury for. I've heard he's been carrying it since December, which is mental. So hopefully,
Was it
it's like he
Tannadice?
gets-
It was the game that he scored.
Yeah,
He scored,
it's
and then he went off. He
insane.
went off injured with like 10 minutes left, and he was never the same ever
It's like-
again.
And it's like, hopefully if he rests up and he's like fully fit, and it's
Yeah.
like if he recreates that first half of the season, but over the full season, we're gonna have a fantastic season because he was just so good, and that's just what I want to see for a full season.
I want
the
a
few
re- I want
things
a
that will make
recurring-
it better.
I want a recurring feature with Linda. That's what I want.
Oh,
what a star
Oh,
of the
yes.
show. Star of the
Love
show.
Start of the show, yeah.
Yeah. she's the best.
And
It's
now
great.
it's
I
like
guarantee
the
that was
contract
that was
extension.
one take as well. Such a
Aye.
professional. Love it.
It's just the way she goes, that's very good, son. And then just gets straight back to it. Fantastic.
Announce Linda contract
And
extension.
yeah, everybody just
Love
thought
it.
Regan Hendry was going to turn up.
Aye,
I did enjoy that.
The
You see
wishful
Regan
thinking.
Hendry, and it's like he's under a really good deal at Tranmere, no doubt about it. There's no chance he's coming up the road to be there. But
we live in
Aye.
hope, though. Eh?
aye, well that's it. Him and Kieran Bowie, who is
Yeah.
going to potentially be up the road, but unfortunately, I think that'll just be a bit too much for us. But you never know. See how things pan out in the summer. So that'll round us off. So that's just been just under an hour for this one. So thank you for taking the time to listen, whether you're on a sun lounger in Benidorm or whether you're in Burntisland on the beach there. We'll be back no doubt sometime in the near future. We've yet to break the emergency podcast button, which I'm sure we will do at some point if when John Potter's phone contacts are fully exhausted and he's got the men that he's after. But in the meantime, if you do look for more content, we're obviously on Twitter, as you know. We've got the Instagram run by Carol, so feel free to give that a follow. And as ever, we've got the Etsy shop, which is in the capable hands of Blair. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and we will no doubt be back very, very shortly in the future, hitting that emergency podcast button.